Welcome back to episode 4 of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet. I'm your host, Kendall Mans, standing in for our usual host, Tamia Jacobs. Today, we have a special episode recapping this past season. We will look at some behind-the-scenes segments and how this whole show comes together. In studio, we will have Associate Professor and Chair of Communications, Dr. Russell Robinson. We will also speak with 2 students, our wonderful director, Brianna Hurd, and our floor director, Montaz Dennis. With that being said, let's get into our first appetizer, a behind-the-scenes look at the making of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet, courtesy of our very own Jashawn Allen.
Life got hands and I was not ready. I had a good fight, but
it's been a long fight.
Close, for sure.
It's been a long fight,
I'm
man.
feeling like Drake. I know exactly what he was talking about now. Shoot. One thing that I've learned is how to work on the fly. You know, we don't always have everything together. So in order for us to do the things that we need to do, we have to make things happen. So, you know, we don't really have any excuses in this game, and the show itself always has to go on. So you got to make something happen. And
this school year was interesting. I can say that, and I've learned a lot. Met a lot of great people, as you can see. Gained much more experience. Yeah.
It sounded like you was stressed out.
I was who?
Stressed out.
Stressed out? I'm not gonna lie. In some aspects, I really was, because running the show sometimes can be very hectic, and I feel as though it gives you a better understanding of what the real people in the real world experience behind the scenes of the show. So that part, very stressful, especially when we're understaffed and we still have to pull things together. Absolutely, because a lot of us, we worked in many ways and aspects that we're not normally doing. We pulled together as a whole, we communicated well. Some days were a little rough, but we gained and maintained to keep each other strong and, you know, keep each other alive and happy. Thank you all, and I wish everyone the best in their future endeavors. Thank you, Dr. Robinson, for your feedback as well and your great teaching. And good luck to everyone.
Honestly, I feel accomplished. Because originally, like when Dr. Robinson first told me that I was gonna have to direct, I was extremely nervous because I never did anything like that before. For that matter, last year was the first time I had even touched a camera, period. So I was extremely nervous when it came to that. But I feel very accomplished because, like, you know, the shows went by in the breeze. It's gone. It's in a flash. I would give everybody an A. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people were pretty much hit with curveballs and they had to adjust well as myself, because I had like 5 different roles and I didn't know that it was gonna take as much as it did in order to make it this far in the semester. And for people like Kendall, Nadia, Tamia, shout out to Tamia, love you. For people like that to come through and pretty much make the show work, even though it's stuff that they're not used to, I give them an A. I love y'all. For the people that's graduating, I'm gonna miss y'all. Please keep in contact. And just keep y'all heads up and remember why you're doing what you're doing. And time management. Time management is always key. Love y'all.
3 viable characteristics that we are looking for in our students. The first thing I would say is we are looking for students who have vision. Now, what does that mean? Students who want to do stuff, you know, who do not want to be in this, quote, Insta culture of Insta famous and so forth. So we want students who have vision and purpose. The other thing I would say that we're looking for in our students, we want them to be entrepreneurial, self-starters. We want them to say, I really want to do this to the point where I'm about this business. Doing this work, it does not do itself. You have to put in the sweat equity, and you have to have a dream. That's important. Last, and I think this is the most important aspect of any student in our department, is the ability to be coachable. When we say coachable, we're talking about how well you can take constructive feedback and how well you can employ that feedback. So those are the three things that I'm looking for specifically.
Right after this, we will be joined by Associate Professor and Chair of Communications, Dr. Russell Robinson. Don't go away.
Alabama State University, we're focused on student success. Choose from 63 undergraduate and graduate degree programs from a university that has provided educational excellence for more than 150 years. From research to robotics, education to economics, theater to technology, we have the degree to fit your future. Choose the tradition. Choose the promise. Choose Alabama State University.
We hope you are ready for the first serving, because in studio we have with us Associate Professor and Chair of Communications, Dr. Russell Robinson. Thank you, sir, for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So for those of the audience that doesn't know, you were kind of like the innovator, the one that brought this show, the concept, to us. So what was your original vision for the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet?
That's a deep question. Thank you for asking. The show really originated at my old school, North Carolina Central University, and it was designed to be really a radio show for students. It was born out of a class called American Mass Media and Popular Culture. Mm-hmm. So as the program began, we had a couple of shows that was on our thing called, it was basically our student-run radio station. And then all of a sudden COVID hit. And so how do we still run this program but now do it at a distance when we had some students who were like at home in Maryland or wherever else? So we used an application called Livestream, and with Livestream we were able to still run the show, but we actually were able to use our cameras on our computers and so forth. Mm-hmm. So from there we still had to come up with a rundown. We talked about the current events of what was happening in the world today, while also talking about some of the topics linked to the course, such as hegemony or gender studies. So that's pretty much how we got to there. As things had it, I eventually came here, and we also have the old shows that are available on all the streaming platforms. So when the opportunity presented itself for me to teach this particular course, I was like, well, why not use this as an opportunity to take the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet to the next level? Mm-hmm. And so in doing that and seeing what I've seen this class do, especially in the course of one semester, I can say that I'm seeing the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet as a show, as a brand grow. And I'm so happy that Alabama State University students have turned this into the next level.
You already kind of touched on it a little bit, but how do you believe that original vision was kind of altered when it came here? And then obviously now that we're done with the season, how do you feel like it kind of altered its way here?
It really was a lot of growth. We made a slew of mistakes in the beginning. First, you had the dynamic of a brand new class learning a brand new professor. And then as you also had to deal with that, you also had to then deal with the professor's expectations. So there was a big growth spurt that we had to go through in such a short amount of time. The vision that I saw then, which was strictly just a podcast, it has now morphed or matured now into a full-blown public affairs television program. And I think from some of the things that you have covered over the course of this semester, it shows that the students have matured as well. So it's not just about talking about public affairs or current events. It's actually talking about things that are relevant, that are timely, that have significance, that have impact, not just to this university student, but even the campus community, and most importantly, I would say Montgomery as a community proper. Mm-hmm. So this has exceeded my own imaginations.
So what do you think some of the lessons that we could take from this, you as a professor, but also us as students, and kind of how can they apply to the next few seasons of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet?
Again, another great question. When you think about the things that you've learned as a student in this course, you actually have learned a lot about reporting. You've learned how to investigate a story. You've learned about sources and how important sources are. You also are now learning how to engage outside of the campus itself. The thing that I like to say is that the university in and of itself is the classroom. The university is the classroom. The city that houses the university is the actual learning laboratory. So getting out there and engaging in the community, that's excellent. You build so many skills here. Not only are you building your interview skills, you're building your camera skills, but you're also building those team building skills. Because in the very beginning, you had to come together as a unit. And as you did that, the expectations, they just started to materialize. I saw in the beginning you were like here, which was great. But now at the final show, and yes, we have made some bloopers, but having said that, the professionalism has changed tremendously. How you approach a story is now changed. I want to believe that. One of the things that I said in my interview when I applied to be a part of this team here was that my goal is to make sure that not only are we producing, the next generation of content creators and producers, but in addition, critical producers and consumers of media, especially now since our media systems have changed dramatically. In my time before time, we dealt strictly with legacy media. Now you're dealing with social media and now augmented reality and even AI. These are things that are now in your hands that I expect you to do tremendous things with.
Dr. Robinson, we want to thank you so much for coming to the studio and giving us your point of view on this. Now we would actually like to welcome two of our students, phenomenal students that have been vital to the success of this show, Director Brianna Hurd and Floor Director Montez Dennis. Stay tuned for more of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet.
It's bittersweet. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time. I knew this chapter would come, but I'm proud. It's an emotional time, but I'm very proud. You okay? No, I'm not. You sure? I'm sure. Is it like you keep that? No.
My major is in business administration. I'm excited to see what Alabama State can offer me and what I can also offer Alabama State. I'm excited for my new journey and I'm ready to see what comes with this new experience.
I'm probably going to be a future history maker because I have big aspirations. I'm very ambitious and I plan to really make my mark on this campus.
Become a history maker today. Visit www.alasu.edu.
Hope you all are not full just yet, because in studio with us, we have our director, Brianna Hurd, and our floor director, Montez Dennis. Thank you both for being here with us today.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing today?
I'm good.
I'm doing good.
Sounds good, sounds good. So I think I want to take a deep picture into what all goes into this show. So what goes into a show day, in your opinions?
Pre-production, we have to, gather all of the information and stuff that we need in order to create a rundown. So you need your topics, obviously. You need to make sure you have guests for packages, guests for in studio. So it's pretty much like on a huge whiteboard. We just fill up from both sides with all of the information that we need in order to, let the show run smoothly.
Mm-hmm. I would say that from my experience, pre-production was like running around like a chicken with his head cut off. It was so many moving parts, so many discussions, ideas being thrown out to figure out, well, what do we want to cover for this week? Do we want to touch on this topic? How can we address this topic? Is it okay to talk about this topic? And like Bree said, getting on that whiteboard and seeing everything written out on the board in front of you and seeing everything come together and you structuring and building up everything, having your phone out thinking about, oh, this segment's going to run for this many minutes, this many seconds. How are we going to build this together? How can we make sure that everyone in the room is being heard and their ideas are being taken apart and everything? And it was just a lot of making sure pieces were where they needed to be. So it was a rush, but it was exciting at the same time.
those editorial meetings were definitely tough. Definitely tough.
Definitely, definitely.
But you both kind of went through your own kinds of challenges throughout this semester. Bree, this was your first time directing, and Taz, you had some health issues and things like that going on as well. So, like, what was some of the most challenging aspects about putting together the show?
For me, I would say the most challenging is time management. And what is it? Work-life
balance?
Yeah, work-life balance. Those two things are the most challenging because it came a time to where I wasn't really getting, I wasn't able to get me together because I was so focused on trying to get the show and stuff. And sometimes it's not a healthy thing to do because you can come into the show burnt out, and that's not good because you're not going to be up in the right headspace when the show starts.
I would say, for me, it was trying to make sure that, one, I was doing enough on my end to still support everybody around me, that I was doing enough work for everything. And it was also just trying to make sure that I put my best foot forward with everything. Being burnt out, I can completely understand. Me dealing with family passings and stuff, trying to get my own mental health together, staying on top of other schoolwork, being a senior, and trying to make sure I have everything else together as well. Trying to build a show and make sure the show ran smooth became sometimes challenging, but at the end of the day, it was one of those, I'm getting to a place where I get comfortable, and in a weird sense, I kind of thrive in the excitement of nothing is going how I want it to go.
Yeah.
But besides all that, it was just making sure that I did enough to contribute and that I wasn't just riding the coattails of everybody else, and make sure that I gave my 2 cents in when it was needed, and make sure that I was heard as well.
We produced 3 shows already, a lot of different varying topics. What were your favorite shows and why?
I would say the Homecoming show was my favorite. Honestly, with hindsight being 2020, knowing all of the chaos that went on, behind the scenes, trying to get the show up and running, it was very stressful. But also it was like an adrenaline rush because you knew you had to get this on. You knew you had stuff to do. You knew you had to make sure the show runs smoothly. So I feel like the Homecoming show was the best for me.
For me, it would be a toss-up between the Homecoming episode and the mental health episode. I think it was our first episode.
Yeah.
Because it was the first episode. That was the first time I was able to go on site and shoot at another location and kind of felt like I had a little bit of creative freedom with how I wanted to shoot it and how I wanted it to go. But then with the Homecoming, who doesn't like Homecoming? And being able to get old video from the old Turkey Day classics, seeing that on camera, seeing that on TV, and then seeing everyone come together and all the, like you said, all the problems that went into the Homecoming show, trying to make sure that we have footage in, that we can interview this person now. Are we going to have enough time to do the XYZ? Files being corrupted, trying to come back and get that pulled up, and audio wasn't working. It was so much stuff that at the end, the product came out good. And I feel like after the Homecoming show, it was a big sigh of relief, while the mental health episode was kind of more very heavy, and it was really emotional in a sense because we were just back there just listening and just having to hear these stories, and it was just impactful. But it just between those two for me. I can't really think of another episode that was real exciting for me.
I agree with you. I think the mental health episode for me probably was my favorite, just because I think, especially, it was kind of a coincidence that all of us were kind of going through our own, mental health struggles at that point in time, and it was like, okay, we're putting together a show that's talking about us, that's talking about what we're going through, and I think that made everything worthwhile and made everything kind of hit home for us. But we talked about a lot of deep stuff. I think that's one of the things that, as I talked with Dr. Robinson earlier, it was one of the things that I was really grateful for, was that the fact that we kind of just talked about all of these different things, and we had an opportunity to really, I think, make things personal for us, because it was for us, it was by us. So I definitely think that was a great part of this for sure. I guess my last question would be, what about this class, what about the team atmosphere made you guys keep going? I think oftentimes we had our issues, we had our problems. So what made you guys keep going?
Well, I kept going because I know that this is pretty much like the training ground for where I want to go. And so it was like I had to stay focused on my like long term, as far as like instead of just focusing on what's going on in front of me. And also too, like I found a little community in this, pretty much in this production. So that's another thing that kept me going too, because I had a lot of my friends, you know what I'm saying? I had a lot of y'all like making sure that I was gonna keep on doing what I needed to do in order to get that final product.
I guess what kept me coming back, honestly, no matter how hectic things got, it was remembering that it was like a sense of family, in a sense, like a crazy, dysfunctional, but working family, you know?
Absolutely.
Like a Thanksgiving dinner every year. Mm-hmm. But it's like, we've built memories since when we first got into the department. We've seen each other grow from setting up cameras to then going on to do these internships, to then going on to getting these high places, and now like running a show on our own. It kind of just felt like a culmination of going from the introduction courses to now we've all seen each other grow, and we now know each other's, you know, niches, and like on where we can like grow and what we excel at. Like we know who's a good reporter, who can edit, who can be on camera, who can get what we need. Like we learned each other. And I guess like that's what kept me coming back. It was that sense of I'm constantly learning stuff about everyone every day, but I'm glad to see the growth from getting into the major to now getting ready to leave the major. And it's like an excitement to see, well, where is everybody going to go? Because we're always going to remember this intellectual soul food lunch buffet. This is like what he said in Spider-Man. This is our canon event.
Absolutely. Right. Well, thank you both so much for all the great comments, all the great content. I really appreciate it. So many great memories made and so many more to make. We want to thank all of our guests today and all of our guests this season. We hope that this conversation offered some insight on our show and the many talents of all of our team, as well as some of the highlights of our best moments. Don't go away, because coming up next, ASU students are going to let us know the true meaning of where history is made.
This is where history is made. So I'm currently majoring in psychology, minoring in chemistry. I have hopes of going into the medical field of being an adolescent and child psychiatrist. So as an African American, I know the struggles, the experiences we have, the many adversities we run into in our daily life. And mental health has been a field which has kind of been blinded to the African American community. So I want to see how these effects of trauma still affects us today and how it is holding us back to reach our fullest potential. So I feel that the African American community needs somebody that can connect with them, someone they trust, because many times in the past, we've been blindsided to experiments such as the Tuskegee experiment with syphilis, and seeing myself in the shoes of these researchers and being able to connect with my people, therefore we can get a better understanding of the trauma and different things we deal with on a daily basis. So with me being a chemistry minor, so math, throughout my life, math has been like a hard subject for me. So with me wanting to go into the medical field, I know that I have to go to med school, I know I have to take a lot of science courses which involves math. So just me not being discouraged by, a problem getting too hard or me not understanding something, and really focusing on the bigger picture. Because once I get through my career and once I have my degree, my MD, I'll be able to help the people that I want to help, which is the younger generation. So not focusing on maybe the trials and things that are going too hard for me in the present time, but focusing on what it will do in the future and the impact it will have on many individuals.
With all hearts, minds, and stomachs full, this has been your final serving of the Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet with me, Kendall Mans. Until next time, take care of yourself and one another.
This episode of Intellectual Soul Food Lunch Buffet is brought to you by Alabama State University. Become a history maker today.